that sounds horrible. We need to tune this guitar. But before we tune, we need to learn some basics, just a little musical knowledge that's going to help you out. One of the things I told you very early on was that you needed to learn to tune your guitar, and that most people, when they're just learning, beginners, they tend to pop strings because the only way they tune is up. So they just keep tightening it. Eventually you're going to break a string. So let's get some basics about how to tune your instrument. What do you need to know? Well, the first thing that you're going to need is some type of tuner. I recommend these, love them to death. They're great, they're cheap. If you don't want to do a clip-on tuner like this, you can get free tuner apps for your iPhone, Android, Windows, whatever else is going to be out there, because it'll change tomorrow. Either way, you need to understand the basics of the musical alphabet. Here's the way it works. Every pitch has a name. This is an E. This is a B. We talked about these last week, that your strings have letter names. The musical alphabet follows a repeating cycle. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it repeats back to A. So, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, and then right on up. Okay? Now that you know that, and that the letter names repeat, what you're going to see is there is a frame of reference. So if you're trying to tune an E, and your tuner says D, A, B, C, D, E, you need to go up. If you're trying to tune an E, and your tuner says F, A, B, C, D, E, F, you need to go down. Does this make sense? Okay, now you're going to see something on some tuners that will place a flat or a sharp beside the note. Now let's talk about the difference in tuners. You can find several different types of tuners. The most common are tuners that will say guitar and bass tuner, or you will see tuners that say chromatic. Many of the guitar and bass tuners do not register flat and sharp notes. All they register is just the open strings of the guitar or bass. That's it. A chromatic tuner will register any note. If I play an F sharp, it'll read an F sharp. It doesn't care. What you need to understand is that whatever note you have, let's say for example this E, if I take this E and I raise it up by 1 fret, I move it forward towards the bridge, I make that note sharp. Now in the case of E, there is no E sharp. For most common purposes, that's an F. But that is how you make a note sharp, is to raise it up. A great example would be last week you learned the G chord. There it is. Woo, we're still out of tune. Man, we need to tune this bad boy. If you take this G and you raise it up, bring your finger toward the bridge, this G now becomes a G sharp. If you take this finger and you slide back towards the nut, that's a G flat. I know there's more to it. Some of you are watching this video going, well, what about enharmonics and flat sharp relationships? And beginner video, guys, beginner video. Take it down a notch. Basic premise. If you're on this note and it says it's sharp, you're a half step high. If it says it's flat, you're a half step low. How does that relate to tuning an instrument? Some of you may have a chromatic tuner and you will get on your G string and it will say G sharp. That means it is the equivalent of, instead of this note, it's this note, and it needs to go down. So you need to tune down, lower the pitch. Hear that falling? Okay. Conversely, if you tune and it says G flat, or F sharp, because they are the same thing, you know you need to keep going until you get all the way up to G. So there you are. That's how knowing the musical alphabet works. When you're dealing with your tuner, many of them have different modes. They will tune a singular note. So the best place to put it is in some type of automatic mode where it's reading everything that's going on. And you want to check also and make sure that it is at the correct pitch. You need to make sure that your tuner is set to 440 if you're given an option. There's little bitty arrows on the back, or sometimes there'll be some little dots. You can adjust that. You want it set at 440 because that is the reference pitch that we use in North America. That's going to get everything tuned so you can play with most recordings. That's what I tune to. That's what everybody tunes to on this side of the proverbial pond. Okay, so now let's talk through the process of tuning your instrument. You know the musical alphabet, you know that it cycles around, and you know the names of your strings. So what you're going to do is you're going to turn your tuner on, and you're going to hit a string, and when you do that, it's going to light up. Now you see how that center is lit? See how it's lifting a little bit past it? That's okay. You want it to kind of come back and center on that. That's just a little flat, so that means you need to tune it a little higher. That's it. G. Now what if it was way up here? What if it was really up here? Remember, G sharp, you need to get rid of that sharp, tune it down. And whenever you have to tune down like that from a higher pitch, go below the pitch and then come back up, just a little bit below. D's right about there. A. And this is what you heard that was so far out of tune when we started. Hear that? Okay, so going from bottom to top. That'll do it. So now let's hear what we have. Sounds entirely different. Did you notice only one string was really out of tune? Now that G, I messed it up when I was explaining sharps and flats to you earlier. Here's what I need you to understand. The ear perceives the lowest note as being right. And the first thing that most people will do as a beginner is when they strum a chord and it sounds horribly out of tune, they'll start at the top and work their way down. I would suggest you start with the lowest notes, the thickest strings, because if this E is out of tune, nothing else is going to be perceived as being in tune by your ear. Does that make sense? It's just the way it works. I can't tell you why. I'm not that smart. But I can tell you, if the low note is out of tune, it's going to throw everything off. So that should get you started, pointed in the right direction as to how to tune your instrument, and practice this repeatedly. Knock it a little bit out of tune, bring it back into tune. You got to learn to do it, and you got to learn to do it yourself.